It's Santa Maria Maddalena, and it's one of the only examples in Rome of a Rococo facade, beyond the Baroque. It's Rococo, which means very highly elaborately detailed. And I'm just so curious to see what the interior is like, but just for like 2 minutes. This is just pop in, have a look, and then come right back out again, okay? So 2 minutes. This is really fascinating because what we have here is a more recent building behind, incorporating these ancient columns into its structure. The columns date back nearly 2,000 years ago. Originally, it was built by Hadrian, so that's AD 120 to 140 sometime, and it was a Roman temple of some kind, and then it started falling apart, and it was rebuilt and reused, and it became, the building itself behind was put up in the last century. It became the stock exchange, and now it's a government office. It's a tax office of some kind. But it's a great example of renovation and reuse of an ancient building and incorporating it into something that's newer instead of just destroying it like we do in America. We're a throwaway society. We don't keep anything. Like our First Hawaiian Bank downtown, this could have been something like it, but no, we don't have that anymore. But that's progress. Anybody know how these fountains work? If you've been watching World Traveler, you'd know. What you do is you put your finger here and the water shoots out the top. And it's clean, you can drink it. That's what it's here for. Or if you had a bucket, you'd hold the bucket underneath. So you just do this and take a drink. You'll find these all over Rome, and they're perfectly safe. Just like our tap water in the hotel is fine. The Piazza Navona that we were just at for lunch is only 4 blocks that way. So it's very close. And then Trevi Fountain is about 5 blocks in this direction. We'll take you to Trevi in a few minutes, but along the way we stop off at the Church of San Ignacio to admire the most incredible ceiling mural from the Baroque era. The center of Rome is only about 1 mile across, so it's very convenient for walking, but it takes a few days to see it. And when you're walking down an alleyway, leave space for the scooter to get by, so don't take up the entire alleyway. So we can just stay like to the right side. The center of Rome is a pedestrian district. Cars have to have a special permit to drive in the center, and scooters are allowed everywhere, so as long as you take care, it's great for walking. Beautiful view of the facade. If you have a camera, you want to take a picture, this is a good time to do it. With this lighting on here, with the highlights and shadows, it really brings out the beauty of the building. You see there's basically 2 levels to the facade, right? These are called stages, the bottom stage, top stage, and you have that scroll on the left and the right sides that unites the top with the bottom. That's something that we're going to see again in Florence, and in fact that architectural technique derived from Florence, and it was a way that they could unify the whole facade of the church, because after all, the bottom of the church is really wide and then the top is quite narrow, and it would look kind of funny if it was just a narrow thing popping up in the middle and with that on the bottom. So they have the volutes or scrolls on the sides to unite the facade and tie it all together. It's almost like a theater setting. It's almost like an opera stage setting. You could see people popping out of windows and singing arias. And we're going to walk right into it, and we'll pop out the other side. I just want to tell you a little bit about what you're looking at. Beautiful music in the background, a little mass going on in the side chapel. So it was kind of theatrical, part of the show to entertain people and have people come in and look. It looks like it's painted pillars as you look up there. You see real pillars and real columns, and then they're painted pillars. And you can hardly tell what's a real window or what's a painted window. It's the apotheosis of the leader of the Jesuit order. And around you'll see little shields that says Africa and Europe, and there's one that says Oceania, and it's to commemorate all the different parts of the world that were missionized by the Jesuits. Another aspect of their missionizing is the church nave itself. It's a huge open space, so you could fit maybe 6,000 people inside. And the priest could lecture to all of them. Everybody could hear it. Now, all of the perspective here converges upon one point in the church. And that's a spot on the floor. You see this yellow disc on the floor of the church? You can walk over there, and from that particular yellow disc, you get the maximum impact of all of the perspective. So I suggest you do that. We'll take a few minutes to look around in here. And there's another interesting thing about the church ceiling, and that's this dome. It's a painted dome. It's not a real dome. In fact, it's a shallow dome in reality, but it's painted to look like it's a deeper dome. So it's an illusionistic effect once again. They didn't have enough money to build a real dome. To walk up and have a look at the main altar, and particularly the altar on the left side, the chapel on the left side. And now we'll knock you out even more with the Trevi Fountain. So let's go on to the Trevi Fountain. Okay, around the bend, more surprises ahead. Now we're going to go down this street to the Corso. That's the very busy shopping street. It's just a block down, and on our way to Trevi Fountain. Keep coming, everybody. Thank you. That was easy. So wait, let's stop here for a moment, get you oriented. This is the Corso. The Corso is the main shopping street, and we're heading this way about 4 blocks to the Trevi Fountain, right down there. So this is the Trevi Fountain, famous from the movie 3 Coins in the Fountain. Ava Gardner running around inside the fountain, splashing around. And the idea here, this is where you throw your coin in the fountain. You go, not from here, you're not going to reach it from here. So you have to go down to the railing if you want to, and you throw it over your shoulder, and you make a wish to return to Rome. And if you have a second coin, then that's a bonus wish, anything you want. Throw that in too. Let me just say a few things about the fountain. It was built in the 1720s, and yet it looks much older because it was built to an earlier style, an earlier design, somewhat based on sketches by Bernini. But it was built by an architect named Nicola Salvi. And it takes the form of a Roman triumphal arch. And in the middle you see Neptune, the god of the ocean, the god of the seas. And he's being heralded by these 2 horses on each side, and fellows with tritons. They're blowing the tritons, and they are just leaping out at you. This is the most dramatic and dynamic sculptural fountain any place in Rome certainly, and any place I've ever seen. It celebrates an aqueduct called the Aqua Virga, the Aqueduct of the Virgin, because it was a virgin who pointed to the source of the aqueduct. It's a site about 18 miles outside of the city. Rome was fed by a half a dozen major aqueducts in the old days, and it still is today. Rome itself doesn't have much water, much groundwater. It all comes in from the surroundings. You've seen pictures of aqueducts up on arches and cut through mountains, tunnels, trenches. All of this came into Rome from different directions, and to the point where in the ancient days, so much water came into the city, they had 5 times more water than they needed. They just like to have a lot of water around. They liked the fountains, the bathhouses. They didn't have on and off taps in their homes. The water just flowed through and out to the sea. And at the end of each aqueduct, there'd be a tremendous fountain display like this. So even though this is not ancient, it refers back to the ancient days. And it's really one of the most beautiful fountains anywhere in the world. At night, this place is really lively. It's a great place for young people to come and meet each other and mingle, and just, it's like a nighttime party scene till midnight. Very safe here also. Let's take 7 minutes, go down here, throw your coins, take a picture, and we meet back here at 6:15, right here. Trevi has been under scaffolding for the last couple of years, but as you can see, all the work is done and it's looking nice and clean. Let's go. On our way to the Spanish Steps, we stop off briefly at San Andrea della Frate. What we can do is walk into the church. It sounds like there's a service going on. I hear some singing and stuff. But there are two beautiful statues when you go into the church on either side of the altar. They're angels carved by Bernini. The trademark characteristics of Borromini's architecture with the curvature, the convex and the concave facade. So he's making a real artistic statement in what could have just been a plain blank wall or a decorated straight wall, but instead he's created a space, a three-dimensional space that's just full of life and rhythm and energy. This was a college for priests. See the bees on the building?
What is symbolic?
That's the symbol of the Barberini family. Their emblem was the bees, the Barberinis, and they were a very wealthy family. They produced several popes. They built St. Peter's and many other great things, the Barberinis. There's a Barberini Palace in Rome, which today is an art museum. That's one of the many museums of Rome, great spot. My favorite parts of Rome, this entire neighborhood, it goes for about 5 blocks in this direction and about 5 blocks in this direction. So we're talking about 25 square blocks. And what you see is a street lined with stores, clothing stores, shoe stores, cafes, restaurants, bookstores, music stores, little pizzerias, sandwich places, fancy restaurants, expensive hotels. And it goes, like I say, all the way down beyond that palm tree. There's about 5 streets, climaxing with the Via Condotti, which is running down the middle. That's the most expensive street in Rome. And this is a great neighborhood for you right now, in fact, to go wandering in. We're going to show you a couple of restaurants. One of them is right there, La Rampa. See those white awnings? The white umbrellas? Anyway, let's go up to La Rampa and have a look at it. They're serving now already, which is unusual in Rome. Most restaurants don't open until 7, but La Rampa's open, and by 8 they're full, and you have to wait online to get in. But it's nice. They have a big antipasto display, and I've eaten there a lot. I've put it on my TV show a lot. So that's one recommendation for you. And then we'll stay together and let's walk down. I'll show you another couple of restaurants in Via Condotti, and then we'll talk about what we'll do next. Corso is down at the end of this street. It's about 5 blocks from here to the Corso, and then the Corso runs in this direction for about a mile. It's called Spanish Steps. He says, why is it called Spanish Steps? Because the Spanish embassy used to be over here, and this is the Piazza de España, the Spanish piazza, and therefore the Spanish Steps. The steps themselves have nothing to do with Spain. They were designed by a French Baroque artist, and they're not Spanish in any kind of architectural sense, which is ironic because you think, well, Spanish Steps, they must be Spanish kind of design or something, but just because the embassy was there. Right in front of you here is the Via Condotti, and that's the very most expensive street in all of Rome, except a Foot Locker shop just opened up at the Via Condotti. But it's got Gucci and Cucci and Gianni Versace and Chanel, and a lot of the most expensive clothing stores in the world have one of their flagship shops right there on the Via Condotti. So you don't want to spend any money there, but you might want to just walk down and take a look at it. Hotel Hassler, and that's a very expensive hotel with a very expensive restaurant up on the top. You can see the picture windows. Wonderful foods and a wonderful price tag to go with it too. That's a great spot. It's called Restaurant 34. Or even a little sandwich shop, you know, if that's all you want. Those are fine too. So those are my restaurant recommendations. Now let's go down one more block to the Corso. This is the Via del Corso, and there's shops all along it. Actually, the main shopping area is this grid of streets that we just came through. So what you can do is just go down the Corso for a few blocks and take a left, go back into this grid of streets. You can go up the Corso this way. There's some more shops up there. It's the most pleasant time of day to be out. So why don't you just take a stroll and enjoy yourselves. Walking through this neighborhood between the Via del Corso and the Spanish Steps is one of life's great pleasures. And most of the people that you see strolling here are not tourists. They're local Romans. You can tell by how well they're dressed. Romans really love to look good, and they spend a lot of their money on clothing and fashions, jewelry and accessories, and food. The Romans have their porcini mushrooms fresh every day, all year round, one of the many pleasures of living in Italy. They have some odd little trucks here, since the big delivery trucks are not allowed in this zone during the daytime. So there's a peaceful atmosphere here. It's ideal for people watching, checking out the Romans and all of their body language. If you'd like to do some shopping, you can actually get some pretty good deals on the Italian ready-to-wear designer clothes in this neighborhood. They're not cheap, but they're probably a little less expensive than buying them outside of Italy. Also, leather goods are a reasonable deal in Italy. The dollar is fairly strong right now. Italy certainly deserves its international reputation for the luxuriously chic style in fashion and knitwear and leather goods. This is a tradition that's been going on actually for thousands of years, since Rome has been the center of an empire. Artisans and craftsmen from all over Europe constantly flock to Rome for their inspiration and to establish their reputation. The best time to be out walking is in the late afternoon when the shops have reopened from their siesta and everybody is out strolling on the passeggiata, checking everybody out. It's a great way to work up your appetite for dinner. I'm going to go to Re degli Amici. It's just right up here. The food in Rome will knock your socks off. It is so full of flavor. And fresh pasta is made every day in Rome, and it's like nothing else anywhere in the world. It's al dente and yet fresh and delicious. Maybe some porcini mushrooms in there. Add a little cheese, wash it down with your favorite beverage. What a meal.